arm motherfucking day, guys. Now guys, we are gonna start off with the straight bar bicep curl. Of course, in this particular gym, they didn't have a straight bar, so it's kind of like a W version. End of the day, straight bar, W bar, whatever works best for you. I do prefer the W bar because it puts a little bit less stress on my actual wrist, guys, when I'm performing this type of movement. As you guys can see, I chose a lightweight to really warm up the biceps. But again, at the peak of that movement, as you guys can see, I'm really holding it and contracting. Holding it and contracting. Again, letting the muscles know, hey, we about ready to do some damage. Now on to set 2, guys. Again, I use the same weight. Again, focusing a little bit more on the contraction. As you see, I'm holding at the peak once again. Really focusing on the contraction, letting my biceps do majority of the work. No swinging, once again, as you guys can see. And again, when you guys are performing these movements, whether it be any muscle group, but arms in particular, a lot of people are like, man, I can't get a good bicep pump or a tricep pump. Well, you guys are probably using too much weight. So again, using a weight that I can control, I can actually utilize my biceps and not use a bunch of swinging with my back, my delts or my arms. So now guys, we're in that 3rd set, which is really considered a working set at this point, because as you guys can see, got some nice weight on there, nice heavy weight. So again, still trying to do my best, as you guys can tell, to contract at the top of the movement, really get the blood flow right into the top of that bicep there. And then again, it's time to reveal because it's getting a little fucking warm up in the gym. But for real guys, when you guys are training biceps, again, as you guys can see, there's not a whole lot of extra swinging in the movement. So I'm really putting a lot of focus on the biceps themselves. Peak of the movement, I am doing my best to still contract even with this amount of weight on the W bar here, guys. So now that we have finished our wide grip, we're gonna go into a reverse grip with kind of a semi inside grip too. So, or again, a close grip reverse curl is what we're gonna call this. And as you guys can see, it's a little bit shorter of a movement because again, you're kind of in tight, in close. You're not gonna have as much of a movement, but again, it's really gonna give you kind of more like a hammer curl type of feel on the inner bicep. You guys will know that, as you can probably tell, I did actually drop the weight, guys. My biceps already this early in the workout were full as fuck. So I literally had to drop that weight so I can get a little better contraction. Just never be afraid to drop the weight if you're just not feeling the contraction you want, or even just again, taking the ego out. Because when you're in the gym, it's not about your ego. It's literally about getting the right pump and feel for the training session you want. And again, speaking of pump, you guys can see I'm going right into a slow controlled negative. This is not in slow motion. This is actual normal speed right here, guys. So again, I'm really controlling that negative, really working the biceps on that negative portion of the movement here. And then I'm like a little fatigued. So again, I will speed up the reps. Now this is a little bit of slow motion here, but yes, as you guys can tell, that the rep tempo did get sped up because I was no longer able to control an actual negative the rest of the way through. But again, guys, intensity was still there. Biceps already 2 movements in, guys, are just feeling it. All right, guys, we're gonna go into a rope hammer curl. So again, kind of going right in from the close grip, reverse hammers. Now we're going into a cable version One thing you guys might already notice is I'm having my elbows extended from the midsection. I never like to truly keep the elbows attached right at the side, because again, I feel like I'm getting a little extra assistance. And when they're out in front of you like this, guys, you aren't gonna get any extra help. So it's literally the biceps doing all the work here. One thing to note, guys, you'll notice it in this next set. If you pay attention closely, at the peak of the movement, you're gonna see me twisting outward, guys. So go ahead, try to pay attention to that. And again, it's very slight, but I am going up with the rope and then twisting right out to the peak of that movement to kind of give that bicep a little extra focus at the end and give the outer head a little love, as I like to say. As you guys can see me kind of enjoying my music. Always when you're in the gym, guys, good music selection is key. I feel like, you know, if you can get in tune to the music and just be essentially you and the weights, that is going to determine a very good training session when you guys are just straight up focused, as they call it. So see here, guys, you can kind of see a little bit closer with the slow motion. I am getting that nice twist right at the top here, up and then out. See that, guys? Up, out. That's kind of the movement we're looking for when you're doing a hammer rope curl right here, guys. That left bicep vein, y'all. I tell y'all. That's what I come to the gym for. That pump and that a little bit of added vascularity, as you guys can see. And yes, gotta enjoy yourself. Flex in the mirror. If you ain't going to the gym to see a little bit of aesthetics and how we looking, you know, I know there's the health purposes and all, but at the end, guys, we all gotta, you know, believe that we're in here as well for the aesthetics, but they come with consistency, guys. Now it's going on into a W bar standing cable curl. So with this one, guys, it's kind of like a wide grip. Again, as you guys can see, arms extended from the waist, and we are once again contracting right at the peak, trying to control the negative. One thing that you'll see as a kind of repetitive thing here, guys, when it comes to cables, I love to keep my arms extended from the body, and again, with any bi or tricep movement, I'm trying to contract at the peak of the movement. Of course, towards the end there, guys, weight was getting a little heavy. I was unable to control it too much on the negative, which is fine, but I added the difficulty towards the front of that particular set by giving the negatives for every rep that I could until I couldn't anymore, and then the tempo essentially just kind of sped up towards the end. Again, lock them in. See how I readjusted my elbows there, guys? So again, controlled, peek out on the flex at the top. And yes, I'm getting winded, guys. I'm getting a little tired. I'm not superhuman, but again, I do push myself every single rep that I can. And see, every time I go to pause there, guys, it's hurting. But I make sure to kind of pause, regroup, refocus, and then channel my energy into the next 1 to 2 reps every single time to get myself to pump out a few more extra reps. As you guys can see throughout this whole entire movement, there's not much rocking at all, guys. I see a lot of guys in the gym, they're in there training something outside of their, you know, not comfort zone. Of course, you want to challenge yourself and push yourself, but you want to make sure that you're lifting the weight with your biceps, not your back, not your legs, but the actual biceps and the arms that you're trying to train them with, guys. Seated dumbbell curls. We are going to use an incline bench here. So when doing so, you're going to realize and understand that there is no swinging here, guys. You're not able to necessarily put your back or your legs or anything else into it besides the biceps. And that's why you're not seeing me use too much heavy weight right here. Another trick that you guys might notice or may not notice if you weren't paying attention, but if you look at my wrists, guys, I have them kind of what's called cocked downward. So in other words, I call it the broken wrist. And I'm doing that to really put a bigger emphasis on the head of the bicep, guys. And again, that's why you don't need much added weight for something like this, because there's already an isolated movement on top of it. You are not allowing for any swing being on the incline bench. And again, cocking that wrist downward is going to challenge you that much more. Going into this next set, again, getting a little closer view here, you guys can see me contracting and pause repping right at the top. Another way to add difficulty to each particular rep, but as well each set. Adding something like a pause rep into your training is very, very key, guys. And again, even though I'm gassing out, I'm making sure to get every little bit out of each particular rep, guys. See, I wanted to give up, and I said, nope, you got a few more. Get that last little rep in there. That G-Shock though. Anyways, guys, going into the next set again, you can see the veins starting to pop a little bit. That's always a good sign. Each rep, guys, you can see me just contracting right at the peak of the movement, really maximizing each individual rep. The nice pauses, guys, right at the peak of the movement. And again, as you guys can see, the wrists are still, cocked downwards with a little bit of a broken wrist action, really emphasizing that. You guys are definitely want to give that a try. I would tell you guys, when you guys are doing this movement, go ahead and try it neutral. Try it the normal way you would handle a dumbbell. And then the next set, go ahead and add that cocked wrist action or that broken wrist action, and you guys will see the difference. All right, guys, moving right along, we're gonna go into a concentration curl, a little variation to what most of you guys are probably used to, which would be using a preacher curl bench to perform a concentration curl. So again, I'm using the inner part of my knee. I also find this kind of effective because, for one, you can go into a crazy kind of back and forth action between both arms super quick, guys, because as you can see, each individual rep is being performed, and literally right when I can't do any more, I will literally drop the weight in a matter of a half a second. Now I'm going into the next one. You know what I mean? So again, guys, it's super quick as to how quickly you can go from one arm right to the next to really kind of burn it out, kind of like an FST7 type of training here, guys, to kind of finish off the biceps before we move into to triceps here pretty soon. You can tell you don't need much weight when performing these, especially if you're doing it at the end. On a different day, maybe I have a little more strength. Yes, there might even been a heavier weight, but this particular day did not need much more than these dumbbells that I was already using, guys. You guys can see I'm going all the way up as far as I can, and then letting the bicep kind of relax right at the bottom before I do a complete rep all the way up from the top to the bottom. So now we are gonna switch on over to our triceps, and we're gonna start off with a rope push down, which is one of my favorites because again, just as we did earlier with the biceps, it allows you to get that little twist right at the bottom. And as you again, like I told you guys, with my cables, I love to keep my arms extended away from the body, really focusing on the actual muscle group we're training. So again, with triceps here, as you guys can see, I'm really able to lock out right at the bottom, really keep it contracted, really keep that the blood flowing into the tricep. And again, controlled movements, no swinging. The elbows are locked into place. Really just a tricep doing all the work here, guys. Gonna up the weight a little bit, as you guys can see, because again, had plenty of control. And the elbows are still pretty much locked in, guys. A lot of control in these ones as well. When you guys are performing a tricep and or bicep movements, make sure the bis and the tris are doing all the work. If you're getting too much of a swing, then you might want to drop the weight. There's a little bit of a swing here at the end, guys, but again, that was towards the end of the reps. So it's not as a big of a deal unless you're doing it the entire movement. Then I would highly suggest, yes, dropping the weight. Oh yes, guys, hydration. Can't speak to you guys enough on how important that is. All right, guys, so again, as you guys can see, the weight is still up there. It's getting a little more challenging, but again, I'm still making sure to maximize each individual rep. So when it does get a little hard, I'm not just going back into one after another. I'm kind of pausing at the top to kind of get a little momentum, but at the same time, still utilizing the triceps all themselves, versus getting more of a swing in there. But again, if you pause at the top and allow that to contract at the bottom, you will get much more out of that. Tricep dip, guys. When you guys are watching me do this one, pay attention to my legs at the beginning. So naturally, when people are doing this, they're down just like they are, kind of right below your glutes. And then you'll see me in a second or two, I'm gonna actually cannonball them forward just like that, right? So when you do that, you guys, you're gonna emphasize a little bit more weight on the actual tricep to add a little bit more difficulty. And then when I got tired, I kind of put them back to the neutral position. And of course, when I'm chilling at the bottom, guys, that may seem like I'm resting. It's actually more so resting when you're at the peak of the movement. But when I'm on the downward, you're really still stretching out the tricep. So when I sit at the bottom like that, guys, it's really putting a lot more difficulty still on the actual triceps themselves. When you guys are doing dips, especially if it's weighted, or sorry, not weighted, when it's body weight, I don't really keep a rep range in mind. I really just keep going until my triceps are just full as fuck, as they say. And you'll see me a few times throughout this movement. I'll kind of slow it down right there. I'll pause at the bottom, go up. I'm really getting a nice stretch all the way through the tricep. One thing I will mention, guys, is on this particular machine versus some other variations for tricep dips, they don't always limit your range of motion, but this one, because of those handles behind me, I was kind of limited on the type of variation of dips I could have done, just because the machine, it's not the best machine when it comes to dips, but this is all that I had access to at this particular gym. So again, when you guys are using a dip machine and or I think it's kind of like the Olympic type version where there's two long bars that you sit on, that will give you a lot more range of motion. So moving right along, guys, now we're gonna go into a tricep push down as for another variation of the cable push down movements. With the V-bar, actually, like this one is, you're gonna have more of a fixed movement, where with the rope push down, guys, you're gonna have a little more freedom to move in or outward, where this one kind of, again, gives you more of a fixed movement. Again, not to mention, y'all, look at the elbows, they are extended from the waist. They are not attached to the side. I do that once again to put a heavier focus right on my triceps. And why not, when you guys get the opportunity, enjoying your pump, yes. Let yourself know how hard you've been working. But again, guys, for real, when you guys are doing these movements, again, lock it out at the bottom, especially as long as the weight is able to be controlled. And if it is a good weight and you have the ability to control at the bottom, go ahead and literally squeeze as much blood into the muscles you guys can. As you guys can see, elbows extended, locking out, keeping it contracted, or again, pause rep right at the finishing point as long as I can. Now these ones, guys, I have a little bit more weight, so I didn't get to lock out as much at the bottom, but that is still okay. When you have a heavier weight, obviously the ability to control at the bottom isn't going to be as much. And I've even got little chest striations in there, guys. That's always fun on an arm day. Now for this next movement, guys, not everybody's going to have a machine like this. So again, a standing variation is always something that most of y'all will have to revert to. But if you do have a machine like this, guys, definitely take advantage of it. It's really gonna just give you in a locked position to allow you to really focus just on the tricep. Because when you do the standing one, sometimes you get a little bit of abdominal work in there and a little bit of delt movements. But again, this one's really just gonna allow you focus right on the tricep head. No, guys, I wasn't picking my nose. Come on, I had sweat in my eyes. Let's be real. Okay, we all pick our nose every once in a while, but that's not what I was doing. So, as you guys can see, in this particular movement, the vascularity is starting to come out. One of my favorite reasons why this overhead type of movement is killer, but as well, it's just super concentrated right on those tricep, guys. And I actually need to, yes, as you can tell right now, like I was just about ready to explain, get some delt work done. So my shoulders and triceps in general are typically pretty tight. So this movement is hard to get into at times, but again, once you get the weight off the machine and ready to go, it's just a killer focus, guys. Look at the fucking vascularity coming through. That is what you want with a movement just like this, guys. So moving right along, we're moving into an isolated tricep cable kickback. So I know that sounds probably a little different than what you're used to. Most people would use an actual dumbbell variation for this, which is fine. I actually do prefer the cable. I feel like throughout the whole entire movement of this kickback, I literally feel my tricep all the way through, from the bottom of the movement all the way to the top of the movement. So again, elbow is pretty much fixed, it's pretty much locked. There's a little swing, sure, but again, if you can, guys, look at the tricep being worked all the way through, right? And as well, again, try to keep the elbow as locked as you guys can. I know this is towards the end of the training session, so naturally there's gonna be a little movement, a little bit of swing, but again, pick a weight you can control. And again, looking at the grip here, there is no handle being used. I prefer not to use the handle. I feel it allows me to get a little bit better, flexion on the actual tricep, guys. When you use the handle, the wrist comes a little bit more in play because it's gonna wanna rotate in your hand. So this allows you to do just the triceps, guys. And again, towards the end, guys, as you guys can see, I was kind of pausing a little bit after each rep to allow myself to get a full contraction at the peak. Always remember, at the end of your arm day, make sure you take some good goddamn pics, or at least get your flex on. You know what I mean? You guys earned it. And that is a wrap.